From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
President Trump ups the ante on tariffs. How big is the nation's cattle herd? Wildfires devour harvest-ready wheat. In analysis, preparing for the week ahead.
We have taken U.S. beans under the price of Brazilian beans now, so I mean, competitively on a worldwide basis, we should see demand start to shift back to the U.S.
And Machinery Pete shares how emission standards have changed auction prices.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. President Trump continues to up the ante in the trade tussle with China. The president threatening Friday to impose tariffs on $500 billion worth of Chinese imports into this country. The president telling business channel CNBC that he's willing to go to 500, meaning $500 billion, which is roughly the value of all goods shipped into the U.S. The U.S. currently carries a $375 billion trade deficit with China.
We have been ripped off by China for a long time. And I told that to President Xi. I said, how did this ever happen? And you know what their answer is? Because I deal with the highest echelons of China. One of the great people of China said, there was never anybody to talk to in the United States.
Trump has already imposed tariffs on $34 billion in Chinese goods. Beijing has retaliated with tariffs on an equal amount of American exports. The two countries have also targeted an additional $16 billion of each other's goods for an expected second round of tariffs. National Economic Council head Larry Kudlow telling Axios that the Chinese president is the problem, saying he doesn't want to move, and they've offered the U.S. absolutely no options regarding the issue of intellectual property theft and forced technology transfer. Now, farm country isn't getting a lot of sympathy from the White House trade advisor Peter Navarro. Navarro saying the trade losses due to China's new tariffs amount to a rounding error. Iowa Republican Senator Joni Ernst was quick to hit back against Navarro, saying, quote, offhand comments like those from Mr. Navarro disregard the people whose livelihoods depend on global trade. She says in Iowa alone, more than 456,000 jobs are supported by trade, and these new tariffs are threatening $977 million in state exports. That's no rounding error. A busy day Friday at the NASS office at USDA as the agency updates several key reports, including milk production, cattle on feed, and the cattle inventory report. Now, starting with inventory, all cattle and calves as of July 1st, there were 103 million head in the country. That's 1% higher than last year. USDA also updating numbers from the feedlot, cattle and calves on feed for the slaughter market, totaling 11.3 million head, 4% higher than a year ago. USDA says this is the highest level since the report began back in 1996. Placements during June totaling nearly 1.8 million head, 1% above 2017. And marketings of fed cattle last month are also up 1%, coming in at 2 million head. Despite low prices, milk producers are still generating a lot of milk. Milk production in the 23 major states last month was 17.2 billion pounds, up 1.3% from a year ago. Production per cow registering 1,964 pounds in June. That's the highest per cow average since 2003. Wildfires in Oregon have gobbled up thousands of acres of harvest-ready wheat fields. There's a lot of promise in those winter wheat fields this year. Well, last Monday, crop progress report showing 75% of the crop was good to excellent. Rain and cool temps this spring put extra yield for some farmers, but in the past month, rain has been short and heat has been too high. Thursday's drought monitor in Oregon showing just 5% drought-free, 80% in moderate to extreme drought along the northern edge of Wasco County. It is ground zero for wildfires tearing through wheat. 80 square miles of wheat and grassland had been destroyed by week's end, a fire that authorities suspect was intentionally set. Oregon farmers rushing to neighboring farms to help cut fire breaks in fields and to man water tank trucks to protect the crops. That included AgDay analyst Kevin Dooling of KD Investment Services, who farms in Wasco County.
This one was just bad because it happened at 2 in the afternoon on a 100-degree day with 30-mile-an-hour winds, and it was an arson fire, they found out. With the news release today was that they think it's arson, so that was it. And they put it right in the spot where it would just cut the wheat belt. I mean, it was just horrible. So, I mean, it's just this one had such severe wind speeds and low humidities and no recovery in humidity at night. And so it was just kind of a worst case scenario.
Dueling estimates that Wasco County alone probably lost 2 million bushels of wheat. There were at least 200 individual fires across the state of Oregon. A flurry of tornadoes swept through central Iowa Thursday afternoon, injuring at least 17 people, flattening buildings in 3 cities and forcing the evacuation of a hospital. One tornado touching down and tearing through several big buildings and agricultural manufacturer Vermeer in the town of Pella. Leaders say employees had taken shelter before the storm hit. The tornado roared onto campus as the company was hosting an annual event with some 400 customers and businesses from around the world. The storm caught a lot of residents off guard.
So we've never had to go to the basement for anything. It just kind of always goes around us, but this time, not. Pretty much lost everything except the house. But the cattle were still here. They were spooked.
The hardest hit town appeared to be Marshalltown, a city of 27,000 people about 50 miles northeast of Des Moines, where brick walls collapsed and the streets' roofs were blown off buildings, and the cupola of the historic courthouse tumbled 175 feet to the ground. The JBS pork plant in Marshalltown was closed Friday after it sustained some damage from the storm. Tornadoes were not the only natural disaster facing farmers last week. Cindy Clausen has more in today's Crop Comments. Cindy?
Good morning, Clinton. More pictures are rolling in from the devastating wildfire in Oregon. Bailey Jenks says the substation fire wiped out more than 50,000 acres of ripe wheat and grassland. Now, it was mostly put out as of Friday, but they had to watch hotspots closely as the winds shift. Now, she said that the fire couldn't have been managed without the help of firefighters, farmers, and ranchers working together. We also heard from a crop reporter in Cullman County, Alabama, who says that they've had some pop-up showers recently, but no widespread rainfall. Soil is drying out very fast due to the excessive heat. And we've had a lot of heat and we've had a lot of dry conditions. We're going to talk about the latest U.S. drought monitor coming up in just a few minutes. But for now, here are your hometown temps.
Keeping track of the shifting market prices has never been so easy. Get the latest commodity prices sent directly to your cell phone with market updates. Just text Markets8 to 31313 to get started.
When we come back, we'll talk more about the weather and trade with our experts here at the Agribusiness Desk, and later Machinery Pete.
Tractors with older engines in higher demand? In some cases. Stick around, we'll talk about it.
Plus, we'll travel to the forests of Africa where work is underway to save these hardwoods with the help of coffee. Here at the Agribusiness Desk, we've got Dan Huber, the Huber Report, and Mark Gold, Top Third Ag Marketing. Thank you both for being here. Okay, last week, kind of a dynamic week if we're looking at what grains did specifically. What was your takeaway, Mark? We'll start with you.
Well, I think the takeaway was we rallied with some bad news, had some good technical indicators, and a market that looks like, and hopefully we can put the tariffs behind us and get to weather and some other factors for a change.
Yeah. Dan, what was your takeaway from last week?
You know, absolutely concur with Mark. You know, really for the last 8 weeks, we've done nothing but worry and fret about what's going to be the tariffs, and about the time you think we're beyond that, then we'd have more tariff talk and continue to push us into lower lows. And I think we just reached a point where, one, we're at a value area. I think a lot of end users, particularly in the corn and to a lesser extent wheat, look at this as a good bargain on corn. And I think you're now seeing that in the beans as well. We have taken U.S. beans under the price of Brazilian beans now. So, I mean, competitively on a worldwide basis, we should see demand start to shift back to the U.S.
Mark, as we prepare for the fresh week, and we're kind of coming to the end of July, we've been in a very hot pattern, especially in the Central Plains. What are you watching as we get through this week and in through the rest of the month?
Well, they're talking about the August weather being hot and dry and bringing in some more drought condition. And obviously that's going to have a major impact on the beans. But the corn too, even though we're early in the corn and pollination's kind of winding down a little bit, it's going to affect the corn if we do get the hot, dry weather. So if we can get enough good news from the weather front and maybe force the funds out of some of these short positions, it can give guys another marketing opportunity.
Yeah, Dan, real quick, what do we need to do on this tariff situation to bump us a different direction?
Well, of course, any resolve on the tariff would, of course, be a huge psychological boost. But if we can start working with some more negotiated deals with Mexico and Canada, I think that will start to overshadow the Chinese issues and problems that are out there. And granted, it would be nice not to hear about any more threats on what's going to be threatened for tariffs out there. But like I say, I think we're really kind of getting that into the back burner at this point, which is going to allow us to start refocusing on not only production here, but really where we stand on a worldwide basis on inventories. And in corn especially, that is a relatively tight situation right now.
It sure is. All right, appreciate you both for being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For a special report on the grain markets, call toll-free at 877-TT-HEDGE. That's 877-884-3343. For a free trial of Dan's newsletter, visit thehuberreport.com or call toll-free at 888-926-0985.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen in this morning, and looking at the drought monitor here, Cindy. Obviously, widespread drought, but some of these places did get rain.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we've been concentrating on especially the central southern plains and over towards the Four Corners region, but look at what's happening as far as the rainfall over the last week. Some of the very driest areas have been receiving some rain. Obviously, in the Four Corners region, we've got the addition of that monsoonal moisture. So we've seen some showers and thunderstorms, particularly over in Arizona, the central and eastern part of Arizona. But we've also seen some, especially Kansas, into the western parts of Nebraska, up towards Rapid City. We've seen a fair amount of rain and, of course, some stronger storms as well. A lot of rain getting into parts of the central corn belt as well. What do we have in store for us? Well, here's a look at your jet stream. We've got kind of a trough in the eastern country, so starting off with a little bit of wet weather. Overall, it's going to be hot, but we're going to watch this closed off low that's going to be moving across the northern tier of states into the Great Lakes as we get towards the end of the week. But notice a lot of folks are going to be hot, looks like, for a while here. Let's take a look at the temperatures. Now, because of that low pressure system, we'll probably see temperatures just a little bit below normal for parts of the Great Lakes and into the Corn Belt this week. I don't think it's going to be a lot below normal. I think it's going to be close to, if not just a little bit below normal. Now, precipitation wise, we're going to see above normal as we get across over towards the eastern seaboard and into parts of the southern plains. That's good news, because that's where we really need some of that rain. A little bit on the drier side in the Great Lakes and up towards the Pacific Northwest. Now, as we take a look a little bit further into the future, let's take a look at the 30 days, because this is not good. We've been so warm in so much of the United States, and we're going to continue that trend as we head through the middle of July, end of July, and even into the middle parts of August, as we see above normal temperatures for most of the country, maybe closer to normal as you get into some of the northern plains. Precipitation wise, obviously this is an important one as well. It looks like we might be on the dry side in parts of the southern plains, western Gulf Coast states, above normal with that monsoonal moisture in the Four Corners region, and then maybe a little bit above normal in parts of the southeast, but kind of equal chances of any of those happening, and just normal precipitation in the northeast, in the Great Lakes, and in parts of the northern plains as well. Looks like it might be just a bit on the dry side in parts of the Pacific Northwest as well. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check out the weather where you live. Boise, Idaho, sunny and hot for you today with a high of 96 degrees. Heading over to Centralia, Missouri, mostly sunny and warm with a high of 85 degrees. Mobile, Alabama, a chance for a few scattered showers and thunderstorms with a high of 93.
Machinery Pete has some interesting perspectives on tractors built before those new emission standards. He joins us next to explain, and later fighting to save these hardwood forests in Africa by planting coffee trees.
Ag Day, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market.
Back in 2014, EPA changed emissions regulations which required new powered farm equipment and other off-road machines to be in compliance with these so-called Tier 4 standards. Now, those standards do not apply to older engines. And as Machinery Pete tells it, farmers are always looking for non-Tier 4 machines.
Well, Tier 4 emission standards for tractors went into effect in a couple stages. Interim Tier 4 kicked in January of 2011, and the final stage Tier 4 early in 2014. Now, what I've been seeing lately for very good condition tractors just prior to the Tier 4 is increasing demand. And a prime example of that was last Tuesday on a farm auction up in northwest Iowa, where this really sharp 2007 John Deere 8530, 2,823 hours on it, sold for $172,500. And folks, that is the highest auction price I've seen on an 8530 Deere tractor in over 3.5 years. Now, I posted that blog on my LinkedIn page, and I got a very interesting comment from an employee with one of the major engine manufacturers, who basically said, Pete, you know, I'm not too surprised at that high price because there's a very strong demand for the good condition pre-Tier 4 engines. And I think that's accurate. Now, another example, a recent auction on the red side, back on a farm auction March 1st in southeast North Dakota. This 2011 Case IH Steiger 45 quad track, 1,635 hours on it, very nice condition. Sold for $233,000, and that's the highest auction price I've seen in 7 years on a 45 quad track. Now, this brings up an interesting point. If you're selling a very nice condition tractor just prior to Tier 4 engines, it would be smart to, at the start of your listing, to say pre-Tier 4 in your description.
So the Kama project in Africa with double benefits, protecting forests while creating job opportunities for impoverished farmers.
Is now the best time to sell your old equipment? Pete's Pick of the Week keeps you up to date on current market prices, making it easy for you to know when to sell your equipment for the best possible price. Text Pete6 to 31313 to get started.
In the country, brought to you by Kubota. Check out Kubota's RTVX 1140, a rugged utility vehicle with seating for 4. Stop by your local dealer today or visit Kubota.com.
There are a lot of different ways to farm around the world. In Mozambique, conservationists are encouraging farmers to grow coffee plants in the shade of hardwood trees. They hope the method will not only improve their lives, but reverse decades of deforestation. This rainforest in Mozambique is home to rare animals and species of plants. But these picturesque mountains remain under severe pressure from rampant deforestation and war. Scientists estimate the rainforest has shrunk about 40% since 1970. Now, local farmers are being encouraged to grow coffee in the shade of these massive hardwood trees. The goal? To improve their financial lives and restore the forest.
We are using coffee in the restoration project to supply the community for the Gorongosa Mountain.
But military battles and civil war has kept progress slow. There were times when manager of the coffee and conservation project couldn't go near the mountains because of the conflict. With a lull in the tensions, they are now pushing ahead with plans to plant more coffee and trees.
We've had huge troubles working here. This mountain is totally controlled by Renamo, which is the opposition force. They're not in government. And all their base camps are up there on the mountain. That's where they live, and that's where they're protected by the people here who live on the mountain. I work for the government of Mozambique, so it's a very sensitive issue coming up here from both sides.
It is among the more complex conservation efforts in all of southern Africa, as organizers work to convince farmers to abandon old slash-and-burn methods of farming and commit the longer-term yield of coffee on the same plots.
This is the only way we can get them to believe in it, is by actually seeing what can be done on a very small area of land. The significance of this is that you cut down slash and burn, because one family can live on 1 hectare and make much more revenue than the traditional system of slash and burn.
These mountains capture rainfall and supply rivers, sustaining people and wildlife living around its base.
It's about planting 90 hardwood trees per hectare. Reforestation, great. But how else can we improve the productivity in this 1 hectare of coffee? And the more we plant in here, the more we stop erosion, the more we make this place like a sponge. And we restore the hydrology of this mountain, because we're retaining water in these small areas for much, much longer. So the water stays here, it infiltrates the soil instead of running off the surface of the soil. It permeates and it goes down, and it hydrolyzes the river systems.
Mozambique isn't a coffee producer on par with African giants like Ethiopia and Uganda, and production goals here are modest. Only about 100 acres of coffee plants are in the ground. Farmers plan to plant another 250 acres this year. The first harvest will come 4 years after that. It's a long-term plan to help farmers here find a future while maintaining a priceless natural resource. Now, coffee from that region is already on sale in different gift shops and wildlife parks. One possible market is Portugal, where the Gorongosa name enjoys colonial-era mystique. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spend part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.